So, welcome back onto the stage at Spoga 2023. It's nice to see a few of us are watching here in our audience, but that many more of you are certainly watching in our live stream. We're going to have a nice discussion round on the societal acceptance of the horse. So here where we're talking about horses and horses, well, it's not that way in the wider society. So if you look outside of our bubble, how many people have anything to do with horses? Well, not that many, so that's what we're going to be discussing here today. So here I'd like to introduce our first speaker, is Dr. Christine Münch. Hello, welcome. I'm glad that you have the opportunity to come here and listen to our podium discussion. I'm very honored to be able to lead this. It's a very important topic where what happens if we lose the social acceptance of the horse, of the equestrian sport in society. So I have three experts who are able to give us some. Herr Ettwig is the head of marketing communications at the German Equestrian Federation. He recently gave a talk about this. This is affecting to try to sensitize all of us in the equestrian branch. Then we have Lars Fiele, CEO of Stremmers Sand und Kies GmbH. And then Jonas Niemeyer, who's the CEO of HKM Sports Equipment. So the others will leave the stage right now. We'll have a seat and Georg will speak.
So, ich muss mir mal eben einen Timer stellen.
So I have to set my timer. Yeah.
Meine Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, the question, how important is acceptance in society for the horse in Germany? For all of those of you who have products that involve horses, my name is Georg Ettwig. I am the head of marketing and communications. I was born in the Rhineland. I am a horse owner, father of a daughter who rides, and I'm head of a sports club in Münsterland. I'd like to use the next 15 minutes to give you a little bit of information on the societal acceptance of the horse. What does this mean for our future and also for the market? So, if you look here, how does the market look in Germany? About 95% of the population of Germany have a neutrally positive opinion of horses.
Und dann sehen wir unter
46% say they like horses. And then we're looking at these lower figures. These are the ones we want to talk about. Here, active, nicht organized or organized equestrians, people who are in the horse business. It's a very, very small segment of our society. So let's see how the market has changed in the last years. There have been studies. You can see how the numbers have changed in almost all areas in the last 18 years. There was a drop in 2022. You can see what happened during the pandemic, from the conflict in Ukraine, from inflation. You can see that there's been changes, there's been drops in a lot of areas. And if you think of how big this is in terms of young people, so with members under 14 years of age, there's a big drop. There are now there are fewer men who are involved in sport. We knew that, but it's getting even more present. So we talk about people who are active equestrians. When you say, when did they start to ride? More than the half of them, up to 12, started by the time they were 12 years old as active riders. And it shows the urgency that is involved here. So what are the reasons for the declining interest in equestrian sport? Well, we have fewer young people are being born. More people have migration backgrounds who don't have experience with horses. There's lots of digital competition. There are fewer men. There's less contact opportunities for equestrian sport.
Weniger Reitschulen seit vielen Jahren.
Fewer riding schools. The Mittelstand, the middle class, is shrinking, and there is a reduced societal acceptance for equestrian sport. This involves what we would call a social license. This is an unwritten contract or agreement between the public and society and an industry or an organization. Because it is trusted and accepted. And there are many industries and sports disciplines that are trying to protect and strengthen their social license. But riding is different. It's unique because it involves the use of an animal or the cooperation of an animal. Unfortunately, public acceptance and approval it can change very quickly when something happens. When the credibility is impacted. If there's a turning point between social license and social control, this can lead to society rejecting the sport. And that means the loss of the social license. We have growing concerns in the public area. Sports with animals are critically viewed in many countries. They don't understand the role of the association, whether it's national or international, that the interest of the horse's well-being is the main focus. What they read and see influences them greatly. So if they see that the safety and the well-being of the horse is not impacted, then is not negatively impacted, then this also influences their saying. So I don't want to say that media is what drives opinions, public opinion, but it is a big driver. and it's having an increasing influence from social media on opinions.
Besonders an den sozialen Netzwerken ist, dass
Especially in the social networks, the videos and photos that you see can be shared with millions of people very, very quickly. Some of these pictures, the ones that you can see, they tell their own story, and they undoubtedly lead to considerations about whether this sport should be continued. One bad news report can do so incredibly a big amount of damage.
die gesellschaftliche Akzeptanz
They have a very, very big influence on the social license. In different countries, there have been several studies done on people's dealings with horses. But in the Netherlands,
gefragt wurde,
when people were asked about if they support equestrian sport, there is a certain amount of support, but a very large amount said they have a little bit of support or they're not sure. These people are very easy to influence one way or another.
Diejenigen, die immer noch unterstützten, wollten mehr Pferdeschutz und Sicherheitsmaßnahmen sehen.
And those who did support equestrian sport wanted to see more protective measures enacted. So
Sowohl die Öffentlichkeit, der Nichtreiter,
the non-riders and riders were asked if horses enjoy being used in the sport, what they think.
hier zu sehen ist, glauben 67% der Öffentlichkeit,
You see that 67% thought that the horses don't really enjoy being used in sport. Equestrians, this answer was 50-50, which is something to consider. What's positive
Sport mit Pferden geben wird,
is that people do believe that there will be equestrian sport in the future, but many people see this only possible when conditions are changed. So, the upshot of my presentation is that equestrian sport needs societal acceptance. And equestrian business needs the societal acceptance of the equestrian sport. Children and parents need to have it's important that they have a straightforward, uncomplicated access to horses. Thank you for your attention. So, we
wieder freischalten. Ich würde noch hier. Tatsächlich sollte eigentlich jeder hier im Raum und sitzen hier leider im Podium.
All of those of you who are sitting here this should be sobering, these numbers. You can see that there have been negative developments in the societal views of equestrian sport. So my question on you, Lars Fiele. You've been here in the Ruhr district for 3 generations with your business. Can you, from your own experience, can you judge these changes? Has it affected you and your company?
Erstmal ja, die Zahlen.
Well, yeah, the numbers speak for themselves, but are seeing that the market has been stagnating for several years.
Sondern es werden halt alte, werden aufgefrischt etc. Aber es ist nicht so wie in den 2010er Jahren, dass es halt immer mehr Reitplätze gibt.
It's not that there were more and more in 2010. We have to react. We have to see.
Das heißt also, auch wir müssen uns diversifizieren, neue Geschäftsfelder finden.
We have to find new business areas in the equestrian field, but also out of it too. We do things that don't have anything more to do with equestrian sport in our business, but our riding arena business, we've added digitalization.
Zu entwickeln.
We're trying to develop accessories. We talk to young people to develop business ideas, to bring them onto the market. We have lots of initiatives. So our focus is to create new business in and outside the equestrian sector. We're trying to see where we can develop with or without partners, but we have to look outside of the core industry. So you're not just active in Germany, but also outside the country as well. Can you say, is there any growth in the industry in, for example, China? Can we keep up? Can we compete with the digital world? Well, we haven't really seen what's going on in other countries. We have invested there in other areas outside. So, well, not in construction, but we haven't seen this in equestrian sport. In Switzerland is a growing market for footing. The Swiss have a different relationship to horses, and the prejudices that are present in Germany are not so strong in Switzerland. So we talked about approval permits for arenas. What is your experience with this? Well, when arenas are built, we're not doing things the way we used to. Sometimes it's not approved. So we say that an arena was to be built, and then everyone says, "Oh, that's a great thing. It has to do something with agriculture." And now it's much, much more critically observed than it used to be. It's important for us that we work on the infrastructure that's involved in it. Here is Jonas Niemeyer, a CEO of HKM Sports. How do you see the future for your company and for the industry? Well, about societal acceptance on equestrian sport, but another aspect is we have many, many cost drivers. We have a general trend. My family and my 2 children in Hamburg, when we go to ride a riding club, it takes about 15 minutes. For the second, we have problems with volunteers. Volunteers who really want to help and do the work, of course, on a voluntary basis. But there are lots of cost drivers that we're being confronted with. It's not always funded. So how do we handle that? We work with looking at raising home costs, rising energy costs. So what do? We pass them on to the end consumer, and the end consumer is then looking where the the rent is being raised, the veterinary costs are being raised. We at HKM are experiencing this too. I want to say this elegantly. There are fewer people who are having relationship of any sort with horses. We've discussed this in the teams a lot. We've had thought about different methods of working with this. On 50 different locations, we've had some school horse competitions, and this is really interesting. There are 8 tests, and then we'll also have a hobby horse test. That's something interesting that we're going to put in there that I wanted to mention. But we're active with the FN to bring in young talent, to bring in young interest. We're going to co-sponsor a derby that has a competition format, and so we want to do this hobby horse test so to bring in more children, more people who are interested. If I can say this in 2 sentences. This is a really good initiative. We have autistic children or youths between 4 and 14 years old. 84% of them need more exercise. They suffer from a lack of exercise. So when they use these horses, then it brings them to horses, and it fulfills their exercise requirements. What we also want to push from the industry. So here I am standing as a representative of the industry. My industry colleagues could also say, what more can we do? If we don't get a handle on this, I have to say this drastic, our industry is going to bleed. There's going to be too few participants in our industry, and this is a big problem. So I share that. I'm going to now ask Georg Ettwig on the loss of societal acceptance through media reports. These numbers have been collected over 20 years. And we're looking at a time when maybe we wouldn't be able to deliver for different reasons. What does the FN expect in the next 10 years? Is there a chance to generate growth again? And what needs to be done? Well, fortunately, in 2020, 2021, this reduction was stopped. We were able to halt this decrease after the corona years, and now it's growing just a tiny bit again. From 2019 to 2022, nevertheless, the numbers dropped. But when we talk about growth, we have to bring new people to horses, and this is done primarily over children, with children. If it's not so successful, then, like you said, then the industry is going to bleed. We've known this for 20 years, but the leverage to stress the importance of riding schools to have an offer of riding schools. We have enough demand, but the supply is not big enough. So this brings me to another point, the question that's often said, should we even be using horses when we see these numbers? When you see pictures in the media of stable owners who abuse their horses, that's what a normal non-horse people see. And we know that's not always the case. These are exceptions. We believe that many of us here, that horses have an enormous positive influence on people, especially on children.
20% der Kinder haben psychische Erkrankungen.
Especially when we talk about the autistic children who have a lack of exercise that benefit greatly from dealings with horses, that we take measures to steer children into an analog life. Maybe we can work a little more strongly. So we know that from comparative studies what kind of uses horses can have for humans, therapeutic riding, recreational riding. We are here in equestrian sport at the top, but from a societal aspect, this is a very irrelevant area.
Unternehmen auf dem Weg in die Selbstständigkeit. Sie sind als Berater tätig.
You are, as a consultant, active in different forms. When you, as an external party looking at the industry, what would you recommend? Well, that would be hard. I'll try to put a few things together. Every part of the equestrian sport, I can't make an image campaign on, well, we're just going to do therapeutic riding, or we're just going to do just school riding, or no more competitive sport. All young kids who play football, of course, they're fascinated by the Champions League. They want to compete. So this happens also with children in riding. It's important that they have those role models to which they want to maintain. That's why they ride. It's important that we as an industry always show that those things are the absolute exceptions. We look at these pictures, and the industry really has to come together and give each other solidarity. Like it was just said, there has to be more done communally, that we are not promoting the things that are happening in these pictures. Because more readers, more viewers are seeing those things, we have to show counter arguments. It's not enough right now. It's a big problem in Düsseldorf that there are not enough riding schools. There's a demand for them, but there simply aren't enough schools. And it has to be that they are not too expensive. It has to be a widely accessible sport, so that children, we have to find a way that children will find something like riding interesting, that it will pull them away from their digital activities, pull them away from being online. So if we have a horse and my wife is doing 5 different things, then maybe the family only has one family member has time one hour in the week to spend with the horse. That's not enough. The relationship between the young people and a horse, and then these pictures are not going to turn up so quickly. When you see that you see in the competitions, on the big competitions, that most people, they love their horse.
Die Branche muss ganz eng zusammenstehen, positive
So I say that the industry really has to stay together. We have to bring in young talent. Maybe there are possibilities, what I'm not competent to say, a way to support riding schools so that it's financially viable for them,
2, 3 Jahre warten müssen, bis sie mal
so that children don't have to wait 2 or 3 years so that they can find a place in a riding school.
Immer dann, wenn neue Bibi- und Tina-Filme kommen und das Pferd wieder in den Fokus rückt, ist es in den Berliner Reitschulen so, dass das Telefon ausgestellt wird, weil
In a
endlich lang sind. Das ist
Berlin riding school, there's a waiting list that's 2 or 3 years,
definitiv nicht
and that's not an easy thing to solve.
Wir haben ja parallel noch einen weiteren Messebesuch, den
You
sozusagen
were at another
neben Köln
trade show. You've also were in Nuremberg. You talked about hobby horsing.
dieser Markt rund um Produkte für das Kind und
Is
das
this market of products for children, is that an attractive market?
in den vergangenen Jahren in den Markt war. Ich als
Is HKM able to develop into this new market?
Thema rund um das Thema Pferd haben, dass wir zumindest so im spielerischen Umfeld die Kinder mit dem Pferd
As a way to, is this a good way to bring in children in a playful way?
An sich eine kleine Herausforderung für uns als Unternehmen,
Well,
wenn
it's a small challenge for us
wir hier auf der Spoga ausstellen.
here at Spoga. Our stand, we have a pretty big stand, but we had a much smaller stand in Nuremberg.
Parallel. Und zur Messe erstmal ganz kurz.
I'd just like to say shortly,
Das war sehr
300 different exhibitors in one place. Well, we cooperated with funny horses.
die Holzpferde hauptsächlich dann für den Gartengebrauch waren so.
They make hobby horses or garden horses.
Da kann ich gleich noch kurz was
The
zu
cuddle ponies,
sagen. Wir machen das am Ende auch aus Eigennutz. Wir sind ein Unternehmen.
we do this for our own uses. We, of course, we're a company. We want to make a profit. On the other hand,
Wurde dort sehr stark
the hobby horse
3000 Aussteller. Es gab 3
has
die sich mit dem Thema beschäftigt haben.
there are 3 exhibitors with whom I've spoken about it at this trade show.
Das ja zum einen, weil wir glauben, das ist ein ganz tolles Segment, um
We think that there's a really terrific segment with children. It brings children into it's playful for children, and it also brings them an awareness of horses. The collection that we presented was very well received.
und das Interessante ist ja, dass jetzt
And what was interesting is that from the government, the ministry in Berlin has supported this. We don't want that children, that so many children suffer from lack of exercise. This is a vehicle in which we can get children to move, to exercise, to get physical activity. We want to support that. So that's interesting to us, and we're happy with this path. But I want to add something to what you said.
5 vor 12, das muss man mal so deutlich
Okay,
sagen.
we have to say that it is 5 minutes before 12.
Und da muss ich mal sagen, da sind leider
I have to say that some of my colleagues, I appreciate them all, but some of them are really not yet aware of this.
geballten Kräften dafür sorgen, dass wir
We're
einfach
trying to have a large acceptance in the industry, and also they say that
es kann ja wirklich nicht sein, dass Kinder 2 Jahre auf der Warteliste stehen.
it can't be that 2 children wait for 2 years for their first riding lessons.
Also das Geld am Ende eben auch an der Basis ankommt, also in den Reitschulen, in den Reitvereinen. Ich glaube, da muss man nochmal clever und smart drüber nachdenken.
You have to really consider, we have to be smart about this in terms of maybe there could be a solution with crowdfunding. We have to grab this opportunity. Yeah, and that is the point. We have the responsibility. We talked about this.
in die Medien auch damit, dass wir als
that we go into the media? Do we go to the media and say that as equine athletes, we learn how to to encounter horses?
Die Verantwortung auch nicht tragen. Und wir wissen ja selber, dass es eine große Last ist und auch ein
We know that this is a large burden, and you did say that when a child has to wait for 2 years
haben wir auch schon die sensiblen
to sit on a horse, then
für das Thema Pferde, die haben wir dann leider schon verpasst.
we've missed then the opportunity that
Pferd und Landwirtschaft
the
mit zunehmendem
interest, as they grow older, then they're going to lose interest.
verankert. Und das ist genetisch tatsächlich fixiert, dass der Mensch auch gerne sich mit dem Pferd
It's also part of the human nature. It's genetically fixed that people who don't deal with horses then don't develop that later.
als Verein ja zu stellen und machen auch die Erfahrung, dass eine Reduktion auf das Thema Kind und Pferd und niedlich erfolgt. Wir sind davon überzeugt und auch
We've studied the relationship between children and horses.
sehen, wenn wir es nicht schaffen, die
If we
Kinder für den Sport
don't bring children into the sport, if we don't get them interested, then we're not going to get adults interested. Their life situations are so far away from horses that
Kommunikationsmaterialien zur Verfügung stehen, weil
there's no way to reach them anymore.
unsere Chance als Branche ist
And then our chance as an industry, which really relies on the enthusiasm of children being passed on to the parents,
Mitarbeiter oder Leiter der Kommunikation hier ist, sondern auch als Vorstandsmitglied von Pferde für unsere Kinder noch mal einmal bitten, kurz zu erläutern, was ist Pferde für unsere Kinder?
I'd like to ask Christina Münch about Pferde für unsere Kinder.
Verein und mit Menschen, die sich dort
This is an association. It's run by volunteers and other supporters.
Kinder, Menschen mit dem Pferd
Our aim is to bring children to encounter horses at a young age. So we start in kindergartens, ages 4, 5, 3, to bring them horses, like toys made of different textiles. Thousands of children were able to sort of get to know horses. And another thing that we do, we also bring horses to a stable so that they have direct contact with horses. They can touch them, they can smell them, they can see where they live and try to get bitten by the horse bug. And the first contact that happens in these large events, we want to support that.
durch diese Initiative ans Pferd gebracht. Und
And we've brought several 100,000 children in contact with horses. What we have ahead of us in the next couple of years, so we want to bring children directly in contact with horses so that they can pet them.
auf einem Holzpferd
We visit kindergartens with horse head, so textile. What Jonas Niemeyer just said, to win,
kleinen Beitrag
we all have to do our own part so that we can continue to survive. So all these small measures in social media are essential. We want to go to events. We have so many of them.
viele Kinder mit dem Pferd erstmal nur in Verbindung
If we bring a couple of children to these events,
mit meinem Arbeitgeber.
I also do in cooperation with my employer, FN. This also involves other people, though. We're only going to be able to do this if the entire industry works towards it.
Wir haben seit 2 Jahren Frau Baumüller-Bilder an unserer Seite als Botschafterin, die sich in Bayern sehr stark dafür
We have a brand ambassador in Bavaria who,
aufgestüt, wo es auch mal die Vision gibt, dass
for
das Kind in Sachsen einmal in
a horse breeding, so that
ja, einfach
every child in Saxony can then visit a breeding farm.
Was uns tatsächlich auch positiv stimmt, ist auch,
And
dass wir Sie an unserer Seite haben als Verein.
what is
Sie schauen den
a
ab,
positive aspect is that you're on our side as
einfach auch mal wieder mit
part of this association.
sicherlich
Of course,
eine große Aufgabe, die wir haben.
it's a big responsibility that we have.
Gemeinsam mit uns den Weg gehen, weil am Ende geht
We can only advertise that others come go with us in this direction, because
es in der Form geben. Wird ein
in
kleiner Markt sein, da gibt es sicherlich auch immer noch
it's going to be a smaller market in 2030 if things keep going as they are. But if you see the structure in agriculture,
das kann möglicherweise auch die Pferdebranche
it can,
ereilen, wenn wir
what's happening in agriculture can also happen in the equine industry.
auch mit Georg. Aber dafür erfordert es Komfortzone verlassen und
So we need to leave our comfort zones and find a communal dynamic with us. We have an image film to show. We'd like to show you this film. And then I'd also like to say thank you to my panel and all the people who have watched. And if anyone has some interest or ideas, please, you can get in touch with us. I came to horses through my wife, Lisa. I'm fascinated by these animals, and I've seen how children's eyes grow wide and light up at the sight of them. And of course, they learn social competence and responsibility by being with horses. Horses for our children, so that our children's world in the future will include riding horses without the need for justification. The fascination of horses, learning, passing on, and experiencing hands-on. And that is why we are proud members of Pferde für unsere Kinder, with an eye to the future. Come experience it for yourself. You too can support Pferde für unsere Kinder with a donation or by becoming a member. Learn more at pferdefürunsere-kinder.de.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you. Thank you for this very, very interesting discussion, and wishing you much fun.